Well, hello and welcome to the Learn Podcast Production Podcast. My name is Toby Lyles, taking you through another one today. As I always say, why do I say that? I don't know. I'm sorry. Let's say something different in the future. I don't know. Maybe that's just what I'm going to say. When you get on, you just kind of say things. But we're not talking about saying things. We're talking about fixing things. And, we've talked a little bit about repairing. I love repairing things. I don't know about you, but I just love to fix things. We're in the middle of some construction at the house here, building a new bench thing for where an old bench was, and you rip apart something and you fix it. And that's exactly what's happening today, except we're doing it in software and it's going to be awesome, I'm sure. But hey, one problem that has really stumped me for a while is how to get the timing right between two files where they were recorded the same, but the timing of the audio is different. Now, I've found this in a couple of situations. One situation I found this is if something is recorded in video. So let's say I've got an iPhone, an iDevice, recording something, and then I've got like a real camera, so like a DSLR or whatever, recording. I found that when I drop those two files into Premiere, which one is it? I think the iPhone ends up a little shorter or something like that, or the other way around. Anyway, the timing gets off, and it's really a hassle to try to align the timing of the two files. It's the way they're encoded. One just ends up a little bit longer, not just the way they're encoded, but the way the software reads it. So thankfully, this is not a video podcast because I'd be giving you guys all sorts of terrible advice. You can tell by my video. For those watching, you can tell I'd be giving you bad advice. But we were talking about audio. This is the other time I've seen it is if you get, so let's say you record with Skype, you're very likely to get both files are going to come in at the same time, thankfully. But I've seen other software that isn't as pretty. And so that's the problem, right? We talked last week about the declicks that happen with online things, online software. And what I found with any browser software is, recording software, specifically Zencastr was the one I saw recently, but they have this issue, especially when you're recording with two different formats. I'm fairly certain that's a problem. If one person records at 44.1, one person records at 48,000, or whatever it is, there's a problem with this, and the solution can be tricky to get because what you end up with is two different files. And one, you get the same exact conversation. Both started and ended at the same time, but when they're finally produced, one's shorter than the other. Now, this will almost always happen in conjunction with sample rate dropouts. So, for example, if you have, we talked about the sample rate. So, if you have a sample rate dropout, what's actually happening is the recording is happening faster than the software. By the way, I don't program this stuff, so. What I think is the audio is happening faster than the software is able to keep up and record and convert that audio waveform into ones and zeros. And so as it does that, sometimes it misses some zeros because it's simply trying to catch up. It's tripping over its feet and it misses some audio. And so instead of creating that space where it missed, it just slams the two pieces together. And in the process, there's this click that happens as there's a jump from here's data here, and then here's data here, lower or different places. You can see the waveform changes and often causes this dramatic spike, kind of a cliff. It's terrible is what it is. It's just bad. So let's go on to looking at how to knock out the audio files of to get the timing right. So I'm doing this in video. I'm going to explain it to you in audio. I'm going to tell you I've got two audio files here, and we're going to look at one. I've got one that ends, and let's look. It ends, oh my goodness, I don't know, how do we find out the timing of these two? It can't be that hard to find out the timing difference. It's going to be about, let's look at our selection length below, 3 seconds, 3.5, almost 3.6 6 seconds or something like that. Yeah, not a huge deal, but that's a different timing. Now, what happens is you end up having people talk over each other, or especially if there's some sort of echo in the track. Boy, that's really going to be amplified. There's going to be issues. So you want the tracks to line up. 2 ways to solve this. One, you can just go in manually, and you can cut the shorter file and you can move it. So for those watching, you can simply go. You can see this one. This one is maybe right here. You can see audio over audio. That might not be the case, but you might scoot it over, and he'll start talking at the right time. That doesn't always work. Sometimes it works. But here, the real easy trick is if you're in Adobe, this is how this works. From what I know, especially even Audacity has this function. You can stretch clips. Now, GarageBand doesn't have this, but you should be able to change the timing in clips. So the really easy way to do it is to simply go into your properties. So if you go into, you highlight the clip that you want to change. So you can change the longer or shorter clip. It really doesn't matter. You're changing this in such minor detail that you're really not going to get the Mickey Mouse function or the chipmunk sound. You are going to change the timing. It will change things a little bit, but it's so minimal that I've never noticed a difference. It sounds fine. So, and Adobe really does a good job at their programming for this. So if we look at, let's see, so you're going to go Window Properties, and then once you open up Properties, you're going to find, let's see, not Diagnostics. What did I just click on? I think I just turned off Properties. There we go. Okay. So for those listening, Window Properties, you've got the clip highlighted, and then you're going to go into Stretch. Now it seems really bad, but you are going to stretch it. And I'm going to go Rendered Real Time High Quality. I want it as good as possible. Monophonic, polyphonic, very speed. I don't want those. Somebody can tell me otherwise, but I could be wrong. That's what I do. And I'm going to say I don't want to change the pitch at all, so I want it to stay at zero semitones. I preserve everything. I want to keep everything as small as possible. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the cursor and I'm going to roll over until I get the stretch function, the timing. When you do this, you want to make sure that your toggle snapping is on. That helps out a lot. And then you're just going to pull one over. Now you can stretch the shorter to the longer to the shorter. In fact, we have this really good example you can see right here. You can see how one person ends and the other person begins. So we're just going to go, all you do is you just stretch one to the other. I know this sounds real complicated, but we just stretch, and then you're just going to wait. And apparently this one's taking 1 hour, 25 minutes because I'm recording. So I will probably pause this and come back, and you can see what it does. It doesn't always do a perfect job. I've still had timing mess up because when the sample rate dropouts, it might not do it consistently for the whole time. So unfortunately, it may have been better in the beginning and worse at the end or something like that. But this gets you a lot closer to your goal. So we're going to pause here, and I'll be right back with the result. We'll see how it looks. So there we are. That took longer than it should have. Normally it doesn't take this long, but as I said, I'm really pushing this computer. So there we go. You can see there it matched. And look at this. You'll notice that as I stretch that out, there is a normal delay here at the end where someone stops talking. This person starts a breath. And then they're like, and then they start talking. So that's normal. And if you look here, it looks about right that they stop and someone starts talking and they kind of laugh about something and this person continues on. So that's about normal. There is still some space. Honestly, the second step you could do if you really wanted to clean this up, automated would be to put the two into one file, and you could do a delete silence, and that would work pretty well. So that's it. You'll notice, just so everybody knows, I stretched this 100.1%. To be specific, it's 100.1155%. The other way to do it is if you shorten the one, it's like 99, point something percent. So they're so close to each other. It basically points decimals off, but that decimal makes a big difference over time. So that is how you solve the timing delay. If you don't have this ability to just stretch, then you can just put in a time difference, and that will help you as well. And that if you stretch, and again, Audacity is great for that. But boy, that stretching thing is super nice. So that is how you do that. If you didn't know, one of the super handy things about properties, if you haven't dug around in properties, there are some really cool things you can do. I've done the stretch thing. If somebody doesn't quite fit timing on an intro or something like that, then just barely adjusting the timing can really, really change dynamics and just fit things perfectly. Very rare moments is handy during an interview, but it can be handy during an interview, so it's good to know. And but boy, I really don't want to get that detailed during an interview. But if you're looking for something really exact, this is a place to go. And then this remix thing, if you don't know what remix is when you're doing music, remix is super nice because it's a beat finder, and it loops sections that can be looped. It does pretty well, especially on beat heavy music. Classical music I might struggle with. So we won't talk about that, but it is cool to have. And if you're doing music under dialogue or something like that, remix saves your bacon over and over again. And then the last thing I want to tell you guys is you can also loop. So if you loop something, all that does is just play the same thing over and over again. So if you decided to click on these and you loop, and I forgot where that is, loop right there. You press loop, and then yeah, it doesn't want to do that because I've stretched it already. So if you want to loop is a great idea for some music pieces. Not super handy all the time, but if you have like a little clip of some variety, like a snippet of a loop, a loop of audio that will loop itself over and over again, it's all timed right, then boy, loop just is awesome. Mute, all these functions, especially clip gain, I'm always using clip gain within properties. So it's a really handy panel to get to know. If you haven't used properties, go try it. Otherwise, my friends, it's been a pleasure talking with you today, and pray you go out. Oh, hey, don't forget our audio course where we don't talk about this stuff, but we actually tell you how to do things fast, easy, quick, simply, smart, so you know what you're doing. And when you're done with your show that you're producing, you know that you did exactly what needs to happen. So it's not complicated. It's about making things simple, clean, and work well. So that's it. Thank you so much, and go out, make the world sound great.